thought I'd come share a few thoughts with you guys this morning about being different, why being different is good. Some people see being different is as a negative. We all grew up, if you were a teenager at all, you remember being different. You remember being somebody who maybe didn't fit in, and that your difference set you apart in a negative way. And I want to say that being different can set you apart in a positive way, and that to embrace our differences is to embrace what God has already done in us, what God is doing in us, how God made us. And if we'll embrace that, I'm going to say that that being different is your superpower, right? Excuse me, is your superpower. It's your thing that sets you apart from everybody else. I'm going to wait for other people to jump in for just a second, give you a few announcements here. I would appreciate your prayers as I'm traveling to Virginia Beach, Virginia this week to a church there. My friend Steve Swisher has invited me to come up to speak with his young people and his congregation to talk about youth ministry, so I'd appreciate your prayers for that. Leaving this Friday, going to meet with some awesome youth workers, some students, some people in church. It's going to be a good time. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a powerful weekend. God's going to do some stuff. Also, this morning, I have put out a new curriculum, 5 weeks of messages called Masterpiece, and it really deals with the subject of how we're trying to be perfect on our own. How many students, I should say, because it's for youth pastors. So if you're a youth pastor, there's a thing down below there. You want to check that out, where our kids are just struggling with perfectionism and the pressure to be perfect. And I'm saying, listen, let's go back to being what God created us to be. Let's go back to thinking in the mindset that we're masterpieces, created by God to do good things. And if we can get back to thinking about that, we're going to be in much better shape than where we're at, where we're suffering under the weight of perfectionism because we can't do things perfectly. And I'm trying to be an example of non-perfectionism simply by making videos, creating, writing things, and you know what? I give it my best shot, and if it's not perfect, that's okay. I'm still a masterpiece. You're still a masterpiece. We don't have to freak out about it. So be sure to check that out. If you're a youth worker, youth pastor, go ahead and click down below and check out what it's all about. I'm also still booking for Wednesdays and Sundays, so if your congregation needs somebody to come in on a Sunday and speak, talk about discipleship, talk about whatever the Lord puts on my heart or whatever the church may need. Hopefully they're both the same thing, right? That just let me know, contact me, and we will get that ball rolling. Let's see. I think that's about it. Lots of other things going on. Still selling this. The Disciple Project, still going well, so be sure to get your copy. Just go to gumroad.com/youthmenresources. All right, let's jump in today. Those are just my few announcements there, and hopefully you will be interested in any of those things I just mentioned. So I want to talk to you about two different kinds of different today. In businesses, or in the business world, I should say, they talk about, is your business, you can be two of three things, right? So the three things are you can be faster, cheaper, better, right? According to Forbes magazine article, you should pick two, right? Pick two of those. So can you be faster, cheaper, better? Now, if you're a business person, if you're a entrepreneur, if you sell things, if you create things, then you have to ask yourself, which two of those things? Because here's the deal. When you're saying, or if I say, as somebody who wants to travel and speak and write curriculum, so how's your stuff any different than anybody else's, Paul? Well, I would probably put myself in the category of cheaper and better, because when I write, I try to write thoughtfully. I don't try to crank things out. I go for the cheaper and better, because I just think that's my mode of, that's what I can tell people. If you want to buy my stuff, it's cheaper and better, maybe than some other stuff that you're looking at in regards to that. Also in regards to speaking. So you know what, if you want to have me come speak, you know what, I'm not super expensive, but I'm probably less expensive than a lot of people that maybe want to come speak at your church. But in fact, if you try to be all three, faster, cheaper, or better, you're literally saying, well, we're just like everybody else. Everybody wants to be everything. We want to be faster, better, cheaper. We can do everything that anybody else can do. Well, I don't know if that's very good, because You're saying I am same instead of saying I am different. I am not. You're not adding any value to the table to say, look, we're focused on two of these three things. We can guarantee you fast. We can guarantee you to be cheaper. We're going to have the lowest price, and we're going to say that we're better. And I don't think you can do all three of those things. So you really have to pick and choose what you're going to do. Example, Dell computers are cheaper and faster, but not better. I mean, I have a Mac computer. I enjoy Macs. They're not cheap. They are better, in my opinion. And to some degree, they're faster, not necessarily from the processing, but faster in the sense of what I think Apple can deliver to me, okay, in a timely fashion without having to call Dell or some other computer company. Another example would be Uber. Uber is faster and better, but not necessarily cheaper, right? It's quick and you're going to get there, but you're going to pay a premium price maybe for your ride, for your drive somewhere. You could also say somebody like a tailor. A tailor is better in good quality, right? But not necessarily cheap, and not maybe a little bit cheaper. But that process is going to be slow, right? Because you're making something handmade. So so as far as different goes, as far as it's going with, with businesses and things like that, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business person, something like that, well, you have to kind of focus in and dial in on who you are as a business. Saying that you're the same or as good as anybody else, not going to get you the ton of business you might be looking for. Okay, I think the same is true of churches. If I could pick three words for churches or youth ministries, I would say maybe authentic, being authentic, relevant, and intentional. Okay, to be authentic is to be sincere, right? Their heart is in it, but maybe they're not as relevant in the sense of they don't have all the lights. They don't have all the technology, but they're super sincere people. So somebody might say, well, come to my church because, we're authentic or we're sincere or our hearts are in it, but we don't have all the goodies. We don't have all the stuff. Hey, good morning, Brooke. You may say, well, look, we're relevant and we're intentional. Okay, there are churches that are relevant and intentional, but they're not necessarily authentic in regards to perception, maybe, because you think, well, they have all the goodies, they have these great messages, they have all the technology, they're super intentional with their marketing, they're organized, they do outreaches, they have a great calendar, they do all these things, but there's also that air maybe that they're not sincere. They don't care about me. So we sacrifice maybe relevancy and maybe some intentionality to be more authentic, and that's an appealing thing. And there's plenty of churches who can do that. It says, look, we don't have all the stuff, but we're going to love you and we're going to share the gospel with you. Same thing with youth ministries. If you as a church or a youth group, you have to choose between some things. You say, well, we're as good as anybody else. Well, if a church and a youth group is going to say that, then why should they come? My question would be back to you is, well, why would I come to your church then if you're no different than any other church down the street? And that's the question people have to ask, right? If you're a pastor, if you're a youth pastor, if you're a children's pastor, if you have anything that says, well, we're as good as anybody else. And this is not about, listen, every church hopefully shares the gospel. How they share it, though, makes the difference in a lot of things, okay? And so we have to be able to choose some things that we want to do, how we want to represent ourselves. So if we're saying all the same, if you're the same as everyone else, why should I come to your church or why should somebody go? That's the question you have to ask yourself. If my church is the same as everybody else, why would anybody want to attend my church or my youth group or my outreach or my anything if it's going to be like everybody else's? I think there has to be some nuances there that says, here's why we're a little bit different maybe than some other church or some other thing. Not that we're saying that other churches are bad. We're saying that we're slightly different in this fact, okay? So why would a student or a congregant or somebody, why would any adult want to come to our church? We have to ask the question, do you disciple differently? Do you do evangelism differently? Do you do Bible study differently? Do you do Sunday school differently? Do you do worship differently? What is it about your church that you would tell somebody, says, here's why you'd want to come to my church. I think everybody watching this has to ask that question. Even if you invite somebody to church, why? And somebody asks you, says, why should I go to your church? There's 10 churches down the block. Why would I want to go to yours? It's a good question. The first answer might be, well, you know me, right? You at least walk in and say, well, you know me. You have relationships there. We're really good at relationships. And you're going to be my guest and you're going to come with me, okay? And so that's the first part of different, right? Hopefully that helps some of you that are like I said, business-minded. You're an entrepreneur. You have a ministry, something like that. You want to say that. The second kind of different is this, and that's about us as individuals. Sometimes we think what makes a difference puts us at a disadvantage, right? It makes us, once again, the people who are offset, who are out of the picture, we're the underdog because of difference. And I'm saying that your difference is your strength. It is your superpower. It is your weapon. And, that difference, it can be something physical, right? It can be something, a skill or a hobby that you have that it puts you differently from others. That's why so many actors, I think, have to learn so many things. As we all should. We need to work on our skill building. We need to work on things like that because we're eventually, if you're a young person watching this or maybe you're transitioning jobs, somebody's going to ask you the question, why should I hire you? And all these actors, right, they got to learn piano, they learn guitar, they learn how to sing, they learn how to dance, they learn how to do all these things so they can be ready for whatever role they want to go out for. And really, that's life. We're preparing for whatever role that we want to enter into and to be ready for whatever opportunity comes up and says, hey, here's an opportunity. Do you think you can do that? Well, we have that. We can learn anything we want to learn. How did I learn to make videos? How did I learn to talk to a camera and talk to you guys? How did I learn to build a website? How did I learn to do anything, do a podcast or write curriculum? I just kept doing it over and over again. I just kept learning. I kept building my skill base. I kept at it until I started to get somewhat good at it. And it's not terrible. I'm not terrible at it. So I'm making progress, if nothing else, but I'm also not done. I'm still learning something. If you're maybe a little bit older and technology scares you, I'm telling you, do not fear the technology. Learn how to use your iPhone. Learn how to do things on apps. Learn how to create a store. Learn how to create something so that you can build your skills so that you're not left out of the picture, right? I don't want to be left out of the picture. When I'm selling, example of this new series I have, Masterpiece. Listen, I have learned as much as I can learn. I learned how to run Facebook ads, how to have an email list. I learned all these things because I did not want to be left out of the picture. And so skill building is super important to being different, right? What makes you different and what makes us strong, okay? And it makes you stand out for all the right reasons. Let me give you an example. For those of you who remember Fran Drescher, you guys remember Fran Drescher from The Nanny? Fran Drescher from The Nanny, you would think, oh my gosh, how could anybody hang around her or do? But she's a beloved character on TV because, listen, you look at her and say, well, her voice or her laugh or those things are like, oh, those are terrible. Yet, those things are what set her apart. Those things are what makes her unique. That's why we remember her for her laugh, for her talk, for her looks, all those things. We remember her character. We remember those things because of her being different. Many people get the part or get the whatever because they're different. They're not like everybody else. Everybody's so busy trying to be like everybody else, they're not tapping into their uniqueness. They're not tapping into what makes them special. And so another example I would say is actors like Steve Buscemi. Do you know who Steve Buscemi is? Steve Buscemi has been in things like Con Air, he's Boardwalk, Good Morning Cameron. All those things, movies that he's been in. He's a unique looking guy. He does not have what I would call leading man looks. He's different looking, and because he's different looking, and because he's a good actor, by the way, he gets these parts, and he's all over the place. You go, I know that guy. I know that guy. He was in Reservoir Dogs. He's been in some classics, man. And it's his differentness, even in his physicalities, that I think helps him, as well as his acting chops, is his ability, his skills to do things. But I think that he taps into his being different. I even think about Jesus. You say, what made Jesus? Well, Jesus certainly had the advantage in the sense of that he was the Son of God, of course. But I like what this verse says in Matthew 7:29. He says, when Jesus had finished saying these things, the crowds were amazed at his teaching, because he taught as one who had authority and not as their scribes. Matthew 7:29. People could tell there was a difference in the way he was teaching. It differentiated him from all the other rabbis, all the other people. And that's what made him, obviously he was the Son of God, so he was certainly unique in his own right. But what I'm saying is that the people noticed something about him that set him apart. And I'm saying that people can notice something in us that's different, that can set us apart. If we can tap into it, if the thing that we're saying, that we're shy about, or the thing that we don't want people to know about, or the thing that we've not developed yet, or the thing we've not learned yet, or whatever that part of you is different, that may be the key to you succeeding. That may be the key that sets you apart in a job interview. That sets you apart. Let me give you an example. How many of you have sat in a thing and heard these interview questions? Tell me why you're the best person for this job. How do you compare yourself to others who might be interested in this role? What makes you special? How do you differentiate yourself from other candidates? Those are all questions you hear on job interviews. If there's a lot of people up for a job, you're going to have to look at it and say, hey, here's why I've been in a lot of youth pastor interviews, and those are my favorite parts. I think the interview process is where I shine and excel, because I love interacting, and I love talking about what I feel like I can bring to the table for a church or an organization. Some people ask too, say, Paul, why should I have you speak at my church? Why should I have you come and speak at my youth group? Something I discovered last night when I was thinking about this is this: I have never been compared to any other speaker or preacher. Nobody's ever said, good morning, Travis. Nobody's ever said, Paul is just like so-and-so. Paul speaks just like, and partially that's because I don't watch other preachers. I don't really listen to other preachers because I don't want to pick up on mannerisms. I don't want to pick up on things that they do that, I don't mind that. Anybody who does that, that's fine. I choose not to do that because I want to speak in a unique voice if I can without picking up other things from other people. That's just my thing. That's what makes me different, right? I'm not trying to be like somebody else. I'm trying to develop my own voice as God allows me to. And when we go into, when somebody asks me, well, why should I come speak? Well, let me tell you what, I could say, I'm just like everybody other speaker, just get somebody else. I tell people I'm good before service, during service, and after service. I do ministry before service, during service, and after service. I'm not one of those speakers that comes in and says, I'm here, I'm going to speak, and then I'm going to get out of the way and just go away somewhere. When I come and speak to a youth group, having been a youth pastor for 30 years, I get to say, listen, I'm not just speaking, I'm speaking to individuals, and I'm speaking to the group because I care about the whole youth ministry. I care about the context of the environment I'm in. And so I care about the individuals and what God's doing in them individually, but I also care about them corporately as much as I care about a church and their place within a community. I understand that, having working in multiple churches and working in multiple communities. So when somebody says, well, why should I hire you to come speak at my church? Or why should I have you come in and do something? Because both experience and passion and self-awareness and understanding the needs of your church and your youth ministry as I listen to what you're saying to me, that I understand the broader context. I understand my role within the ecosystem of what's going on. I come in and speak and share and do my part to move the ball forward down the field, right? But let me tell you this. Let me end with a couple of quotes here. But once again, what is your differentiating factor? Have you thought about that? Give me some feedback. You guys are on here. Have you been in a job interview and have you been able to clarify why you should get a job versus somebody else? Travis, maybe you've interviewed at churches and maybe you've had to differentiate yourself from 5 or 6 different other applicants. Beth, you were saying last night, you've had to go through the same thing. But we're going to have to tap into who we are and who God made us to be and accept the differences and say, okay, and somewhat embrace the different and say, okay, here's why I'm different. I may have a different tone of voice. I may preach differently. I may have a different way of looking at life. I may have a different feature. You look at some of the actors today, and you look at them and go, man, how did they get a job? How did they get a job? How did they become superstars? How did they, you just ask and you're looking and going, I don't get it. I don't get it. But something about them is different. Something about them is different, and that's why somebody said that nobody sees that on the rest of the landscape there. We need to get that guy to come in and be in this part or this role because they're different. So let me just close with a couple of quotes here. I love this. Lindsey Sterling, who does, she's a violinist. She does these epic videos. You can Google them and Google them and look for them on YouTube. She has great videos. They're epic. They're cinematic. They're big. And here's what she says. She says, sometimes being different feels a lot like being alone. But with that being said, being true to that and being true to my standards and my way of doing things in my art and music, everything that has made me feel very different in the end has made me the happiest. Okay. Well, hey, look, Beth, that's okay. You're gonna crush the next one. You're gonna dive deep, and you're gonna figure that out. But Lindsey says, listen, that being different is a lot like being alone. It is. But some things you got to own. Like me, I look at things differently. I look at discipleship differently. I wrote a book about it. I look at planning differently. I wrote a book about it. Everybody doesn't agree with me, but I'm going to accept the fact that I have a certain point of view that I want to move forward. And you know what? That makes me happy. It makes me happy that I'm not like everybody else. It makes me happy that I'm not trying to be like another youth pastor or another youth ministry. It makes me happy that I can accept the uniqueness that God has placed within us. It's right. You got that right, Travis. That's right. By the way, be yourself because everybody else is taken. You know what I'm saying? You have really no choice. To be somebody else, to be a poor, you can be a great version of yourself or a poor copy of somebody else. It works better when you're the original. It works better when you're you. But like I said, Lindsey says it's a lot like feeling alone. And you know what? Being different can feel alone for a season. But let me tell you what, in the end, that difference in you is going to make you the happiest. Another quote here by Sam Hunt, artist and singer Sam Hunt. He says, the key to me is being different is not for the sake of being different, but being the most authentic version of what you do. And definitely it takes a willingness to be different because there was a resistance for me early on. And I feel like that usually the case when there's a certain paradigm or trend happening and you step outside of that, right? And so for me, I'm waiting for people. That's correct. You would make a terrible Batman. Although you might make a great Batgirl, Brooke. You can have more than one. You can have more than one. Or you can make up your own superhero name if you would like. Well, that's true. There are 10 more. I agree. There are. But you can be your own superhero, Brooke. Come up with a name for yourself. You're already a superhero. You just need a name. So you just work on that and let me know what that becomes. But like I said, sometimes you're ahead of the curve. Like me, I feel like I'm ahead on some of these thoughts and ideas. I'm just waiting for other people to catch up with me. You can be ahead of the game. It's a lonely feeling when you're trying to develop new ideas and push them forward. But in the end, maybe people will catch up. Maybe people will figure it out. Maybe people will join the bandwagon of thoughts and ideas, and I hope that they do. I hope that they think, okay, I'll read that book, and maybe it'll change my mind on some issues and things that I'm working on and trying to do. But that's it, guys. That's what I wanted to share with you guys this morning, that being different is your superpower. Embrace what is different about you. Embrace and say, look, well then, how do I present that to other people? That's what you have to work on. That's the work you got to do. You got to answer the question, why would you hire me over somebody else? What is different about me? Why do I deserve that part or that scholarship or that job or that place on the team or whatever it may be? Each of us have to answer that question. So spend some time today thinking about that, praying about it and saying, Lord, you made me a certain way. How do I use that to glorify you, first of all, and second of all, how do I do that to find my place in the world of where I'm trying to live and try to make a living and all those things. That is right. Eat your spinach, Travis. You are what you are, and I am what I am. It's my little Popeye impression. It wasn't great, but I didn't have the pipe. That's a problem. If I had the pipe, it would work so much better. Right. All right, that's it. That's it for today, guys. So I want you to go out there. I want you to do some good things. I want you to think about why you're different. And I want you to think about your next interview. And I want you to think about those things. And I want you to embrace the different about you. And I want you to say, okay, how do I make this work in the world? And I believe God will show you a path forward. So other than that, guys, I hope and pray that you guys have a fantastic week. Be sure, if you're a youth pastor, youth worker, down below is the Masterpiece series. I hope that you'll pick that up. Also, if you think this video might be for somebody, why not share it with somebody? Why not just put it out there and say, look, I know some people that need to figure out why they're different. I need somebody who's struggling to work that process out, and maybe this might help them. So if you would, go ahead and share the video with them and say, hey, this Paul guy might be onto something here. All right, that's it for today, guys. I appreciate you guys hanging out for a little while, and I'll catch you guys hopefully next Monday, all right? We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.